This is Jets at Noon with Cameron Poitras and Jim Toth on 680 CJOB.
You know, they don't give up much. You know, they got some high-end players, and they kind of wait for you to make a mistake, and they'll make you pay. And so we got to be patient tonight, and it's going to be a challenge to get in there and get some quality looks. But, you know, last game was a tight one too, but got to be patient, I think.
That was Cole Perfetti. Speaking about tonight's game coming up against the Jets and the Islanders, pregame show gets going at 4 o'clock. Puck drop at 6:30 here on 680 CJOB. Jets brought to you by Wash Method Car Wash, 690 St. Anne's Road. The VIP take on the text line to win a VIP car wash from my good friends at Wash Method, 204-780-6868. Kicking off a 4-game road trip, Jim Toth.
4-game road trip in the beautiful state of New York. Is it Long Island or Brooklyn now? Because I wanted to say
It's
no
not
sleep till Brooklyn.
No, it's Long Island.
You can't say it anymore because they're not. Yeah, they got that beautiful new facility
in Nassau County. Yeah.
And the Islanders lost to the Rangers last night. I watched some of that game. The Islanders are interesting, right? We hear they're having meetings about the trade deadline today and what to do with so many pieces, but this will be a fascinating one. And really, realistically, when we talk about back-to-backs, you know, the Islanders are coming off a back-to-back. You have to try and take advantage of this if you're the Jets.
To help us talk all about it, Chris King, the Islanders play-by-play voice, joining us now. Hey, Chris, how are you? Happy to have you back on the program.
Oh, great to be back with you guys. Thanks so much.
Good. And just to clarify, is Brooklyn technically is on Long Island, but you would never refer to Brooklyn as Long Island, correct?
Correct. Again, it is part of the island that is 110 miles long, which is why it's called Long Island. But yes, it's a borough of New York City. So although geographically it is on the island that is Long Island, it is considered part of New York City. So yes, Brooklyn and Queens are the two boroughs that are connected to Long Island. The other three boroughs are not.
Thank you for clarifying.
What we're doing, Chris, is trying to get you to invite us down and show us around.
Absolutely. Come on, guys. You guys do the same for me in Winnipeg. I love the Peg, and we'll be all set.
Exactly.
That sounds like a lot of fun. The Islanders are playing.
Sorry, before we go any further, we have a trade in the National Hockey League, and we're going to tee up the game with Chris. Chris, 1 second here, but Frank Saravelli of Daily Faceoff reporting the Oilers have grabbed center Trent Frederick and forward Max Jones from the Boston Bruins. The Boston Bruins get a 2025 second-round pick via St. Louis in the compensation for the two players that went that way. A 2026 Edmonton fourth-round pick, defenseman Max Warner as well as part of the trade. And to the New Jersey Devils, the rights to Shane Lachance from Edmonton for retaining 50% on Frederick's contract. So the Oilers get Frederick and Jones. The Bruins get a second and a fourth-round pick in defenseman Max Warner, and the Devils get the rights to Shane Lachance and for retaining 50% of Frederick's contract. He is now the guy who one-punched David Gustafsson when the Bruins were here and knocked him out, is now a Oiler. He is injured right now, but expected to be back soon.
We'll discuss that more after at 12:30 when
Thanks,
we get
Chris.
back into it. Sorry
wait.
about that. The Islanders are playing the second night of a back-to-back here, the 4-0 shutout loss to the Rangers. It was the 7th time they've been blank so far this season. What has been this team's struggle to score?
Yeah, well, injuries are certainly part of it, guys. And, it starts with Matt Barzal. He's had two, very significant injuries. Obviously, he's their best player. He's their most talented player. And that's one of the reasons, certainly. There are several others. Anthony Duclair has been injured. He has really struggled, though. And, he was kind of brought in to play on that top line with Bo Horvat and Matt Barzal. And, he got injured right off the bat 5 games into the season. Missed 27 games, I think it was, came back, but hasn't been the same. He was a healthy scratch last night. So, the grand plan was to have, Anthony Duclair on the left, Bo Horvat in the middle, Matt Barzal on the right. And again, Duclair's been hurt so much, Barzal's been hurt so much that Horvat, who's had a strong season, hasn't had any consistent wingers. The other guys, the surrounding them, Anders Lee's the team leader in goals with 23, Brock Nelson and Kyle Palmieri are sitting on 19 each. They've done their jobs, but you just can't take Matt Barzal out of this lineup and expect that they're going to score like they would if he was in.
This team, and you would know better than anyone, Chris, really, speaking of Barzal, like when he's in there, he's a difference maker. Just he's had a rough couple of years health-wise, right? And really, the trajectory of the Islanders have kind of gone the way of that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, again, he's the guy that stirs the drink, so to speak. He's only played 30 of the 60 games. So, I mean, they basically had him for half a season. due to these injuries. And again, he's such a strong playmaker. He's the zone entry guy on the power play, so that has really struggled without him. And he's such the vision, the passing. We'd all like him to shoot a little bit more, but he's just such in the way he draws defenders to him, the way he draws penalties, the way that opens up space for other guys when they try to double team him. You just can't overstate how much he means to this offense and how different it is without him.
How difficult is this team how difficult of a spot are they in right now to climb into the playoffs?
Well, here's the thing, guys, right? You look at the numbers and you say, hey, they're 5 points back at Detroit for the second wild card spot, right?
Yeah.
That's the good news. The bad news is you have 5 teams in between them and the Red Wings that they have to jump over now, and the Rangers, the Senators, the Canadiens, the Bruins, and the Flyers. So, as you guys know, when it gets to this point in the season, for me, it's not just about the points back. It's the teams in between. Can you close a 5-point gap? Absolutely, with 22 games to go. But can you jump over 5 other teams that are always playing in front of you every night and sometimes playing each other? And, of course, the dreaded 3-point game comes back to bite you. So even when you win, you're losing ground in essence. So that, to me, is the bigger challenge, is trying to jump over 5 teams rather than making up 5 points.
Yeah,
I'm with you on that 100%.
I am too.
Yeah.
I saw how close the team was yesterday, and then I saw the teams in front of them. And like, you need to go on a run, and you need like 3 or 4 teams to not go on a run and have some real struggles to do that. How is Patrick Waugh in there, and are they on the trajectory? And I know the injuries don't allow that, but are they on the right trajectory in your mind with how he's done under Lou Lamoriello since Lou brought him in?
He's been great. He's constantly upbeat. He's motivated. He's passionate. The guys, all those use all those words to describe him. But, like last night, he certainly was disappointed in the effort. And the biggest thing you can look at last night, it's their biggest rival. It's their biggest game of the season, right? They're at Madison Square Garden facing the Rangers. You can't have a better setup. They're losing 2-0 into the third, and they get outshot by the Rangers 15-6 in the third period. It just can't happen. I mean, they have to be the more hungry team. They have to be the team that goes out and tries to tie that game and then win it. But instead, the Rangers just dominate the third period, add 2 more, and win going away. So, they've lost all 3 games to the Rangers this year. That doesn't sit well with Islander fans. And, Patrick's tried everything he can. He's tried benching players like he did last night with Anthony Duclair, who's a guy he goes back to junior with. He's been coaching Anthony Duclair since he was 15 years old, so nobody knows him better than Patrick. He scratched Pierre Engvall last night. He tried to go with 7 defensemen and 11 forwards because the Rangers, really crowded the net the game before to clear things out for Sorokin. So, He's tried everything he can do, guys. He really almost seems to be at wit's end. He hasn't lost his temper yet, which, is something we're kind of all waiting for. We've had minor flare-ups, but, you go back, you guys know, to his playing days and his early coaching days with Colorado. We have not seen, sticks being thrown on the ice or tables being slammed or glass partitions pushed onto other coaches, certainly since he's been with the New York Islanders.
If the Islanders do end up missing the playoffs, and you just laid out how challenging that's going to be, where does the team go from here?
Yeah, it's a great question because, then you really have to take a hard look at everything because, Lou Lamoriello has professed his belief in this team since day one, their longtime general manager. Obviously, you go back to 2020 and 2021, they had those incredible back-to-back runs where they went to the Final Four each year. But since then, it's been miss the playoffs, first-round exit to Carolina, first-round exit to Carolina, and now staring at a miss again. So, you really have to say, will Lou stick with this core through the deadline? And the interesting thing is Lou's, famous quote is, if you have the time, you use it. Well, guess what? The Islanders play tonight. They don't play tomorrow. They don't play Thursday. They don't play Friday. So he will have nothing but time to try to make a decision. Is he going to stick with this core? Or is he going to finally break it up and say, you know what, they just can't get over the hump? Because, again, it's been downhill ever since the back-to-back trips to the semis in 20 and 21. And the big questions, obviously, for the Islanders are Brock Nelson, who's going to be an unrestricted free agent, and Kyle Palmieri as well. So, Nelson might be the most sought-after free agent out there as far as forwards are concerned right now, and he's got a big decision to make on him. Does he stick around? I mean, Nelson played his 900th game as a New York Islander last night, becoming just the 5th player in franchise history to do it. He's been here 12 years. He's unbelievably consistent. He just played for Team USA in the Four Nations face-off. But Lou has to, really sit down and decide which way he's going to go with this. If he realistically thinks they still have a chance to make the playoffs, then maybe, you're a buyer. If not, you certainly have to be a seller.
Along those lines, last one for you, Chris. And then maybe you just answered it already, but what do you think happens? Like, it could really change the trajectory of this team, and also if they re-sign some of these guys before do you think they'll re-sign anybody before the deadline?
I mean, he has done that in the past, so that's certainly a possibility. And Brock Nelson was asked about it yesterday. He said, look, there's really not any pressure to get it done by Friday because you could still get it done between, Friday and the end of the season. He could still go somewhere as a rental and come back in the off season if you wanted that to happen. So, to Brock's credit, he said it'll play out as it plays out. But I think, tonight's game could go a long way toward determining which way Lou Lamoriello wants to go. And oh boy, you got to face the best team in the National Hockey League in the Winnipeg Jets. So, it's tough sledding, but it's just that inconsistency, guys. Of late, they had a 7-game winning streak and still didn't get to a playoff spot. Then they dropped 5 of 6. Then they won 2 straight, looking good again, and then a total clunker against their biggest rival at the Garden last night. So I think the thing I go back to is Bill Parcells, who's a legendary football coach in this area with both the Jets and the Giants. His thing, guys, was you are what your record says you are. And right now, guys, they're an NHL 500 team. That's what they've been all season long, and we all know that's not going to get you to the Stanley Cup playoffs.
And the Islanders have won 4 straight home games against the Jets. I mean, you offered to take us out. Have you been taking the Winnipeg Jets players out, Chris? Having some fun on the town? Is that what's going on there?
No, not at all, believe me. But you know what? Hey, to that point, the Islanders did play a really good game in Winnipeg on February 7th. That 4-3 game, the Jets did win, but you know what? The Islanders won the first period, the Islanders won the third period, but the Jets won the second period 3-0, and that was the difference in the game. So, yeah, I know the numbers point in that direction. I'll give you one other crazy stat, too, guys. The Islanders have never gone winless in the season series against Atlanta/Winnipeg in the 25 years that franchise has been around. So even though many years they only played them twice, they've never gone winless in a season series against the Thrashers/Jets 2.0 in franchise history.
And I think there's something in the air there because whenever Winnipeg comes to the Long Island, they just play them differently. Like they look like a great team for some reason.
Chris, we'll have to leave it there. Chris King, Islanders play-by-play. Great stuff, Chris. Always appreciate having you on the show. You take care. Enjoy the game tonight.
All right, guys, and I'm taking you up on that tour of the peg. I am.
I will. Oh, absolutely. You got my number.
Come on down.
My number. Jets at Noon is brought to you by Wash Method Car Wash, 690 St. Anne's Road. VIP take on the text line is going to win a VIP car wash from our good friends at Wash Method, 204-780-6868. We talked about that Trent Frederick trade. We'll discuss that. Let's go to break. We'll discuss that coming back after 12:30. Also, a signing. The Habs making a signing. We'll discuss that as well. That's coming down the pipes. And Dylan Samberg. I have an update on him. Something has happened. He was not at the morning skate. We'll give you the details on that morning skate when we come back. Don't go anywhere.
It's at noon with Cameron Poitras and Jim Toth on 680 CJOB.
They don't give up much. They got some high-end players, and they kind of wait for you to make a mistake, and they'll make you pay. And so we got to be patient tonight, and it's going to be a challenge to get in there and get some quality looks. But, last game was a tight one too, but got to be patient, I think.
That was Cole Perfetti talking about another tight game, another test tonight for the Winnipeg Jets. Here's how the line rushes went out. Connor Scheifele, Velarde, Ehlers, Nemestikov, Perfetti, Niederreiter, Lowry, Appleton, Barron, Kupari, Iafallo. Nothing strange there. Morrissey, DeMello, Stanley, and Pionk. So Stanley on that second line with Pionk, and then Fleury and Miller. Heinola is the extra defenseman. Jets head coach Scott O'Neill says defenseman Dylan Samberg will not play tonight. He's out due to family reasons. So hope everything is okay for Dylan Samberg and wish him and his family the best here. Of course, it's none of our business to know what's going on, so just knowing family reasons is enough.
Yeah, and I wish him all the best. It's a huge hole, but obviously family comes first, so wish Dylan Samberg and his family all the best. Let's
take a break. Let's come back. We'll talk about that Habs signing as well. We'll discuss further the trade in Edmonton. And we got a Jets texter that text the show 204-780-68. It says, guys, deadly silence from the Jets office regarding the trade deadline. Are we already there right now? It's not till Friday. We'll be right back.
Still my favorite line from Shorzy. Settle down.
I don't know if we come out and look at it and say, oh, we can finish the Islanders off or we can finish Philly off or the Devils. Well, not the Devils. But at the end of the day, I think that we still look at our own schedule and our own conference and our own division. There's some things that we want to continue to do. We want to make sure we're at the top of the heap in the Central. And, if we can get the same thing in the West, that's important to us. So we just, I think when you're playing these teams, just a reminder that how desperate they are and what they're going to do, and we're seeing it since all these games coming over the break. I think San Jose obviously was the only one, but everybody else is scraping and clawing and either blocking shots or doing everything it takes to to try to win hockey games. And I like the fact that they're doing that because it makes us have to play at a continued high level.
Scott Arniel discussing the New York Islanders. Pregame gets going at 4. Puck drop at 6:30. Jets at Noon is brought to you by Wash Method Car Wash, 690 St. Anne's Road. VIP take on the text line to win a VIP car wash from our good friends at Wash Method. Yeah, love to get your takes on the trade deadline and all this coming up here. Trent Frederick to the Oilers. This texter says, for some reason, for the Jets should go after Luke Shen, someone who will challenge anyone taking liberties. Well, that's, Logan Stanley and Adam Lowry are not opposed to that, but this is kind of a complicated trade with Trent Frederick. So the Oilers received Trent Frederick, Max Jones, and Peter Hauser. Going to Boston is Max Wanner, a 2025 second-round pick, a 2026 fourth-round pick, and the Devils acquire Shane LeChance and retain 50% of Frederick's salary as part of that deal. As well, the Montreal Canadiens have signed Jake Evans for 4 years at $2.85 million, so an $11.4 million total. And Jim, we were talking during the break. You got a great take on this with Montreal and why they had to make this trade. So all those people thinking Jake Evans was going to be available, he's not now. Now the Habs have signed him long term.
Well, he was being made available because teams are calling about him, and then also the fact that they couldn't sign him. When I see he's making under $3 million, what are they doing?
Yeah.
If that's all it took for 4 years, just sign him. But maybe they were doing the whole, well, wait a minute, we know we can sign him for this. Let's see what we can get for him. And when the offers weren't, you're this rebuilding team, right? Mm-hmm. And you're on the cusp of knocking on the door. You've won 5 in a row. If that's all it costs for a player like Jake Evans, and he's that highly sought after, what do you, like Nick Suzuki and Cole Caulfield, if you trade that guy, what do they think? They're like, wait a minute.
Well, exactly.
Over 2.85 a year and what he does for us, you're just moving on because you got this for him? And maybe they got a better player coming back, then maybe that trade would make sense. But when you're rebuilding and have players like that at 2.85 on your third line.
How important are picks to teams like Montreal?
Nothing. If you're rebuilding, you keep look, I'm all for getting more picks or using those picks to acquire other assets that are bodies and get them in the lineup. But I never know what Montreal's doing. And I could say that for a couple of teams. I don't know what New York Rangers are doing.
Yeah, they're a point out of the playoff spot right now. Both those actually, the Rangers are tied right now at Detroit.
So the Rangers are waving the white flag and selling off, but then they go acquire JT Miller.
Yeah, it's confusing.
But I shouldn't say that because the JT Miller will help you no matter what direction you're going over the next 2 years.
Yeah, and I think that's the perspective on that. Tim texts the show and says, unless a deal comes up that he can't refuse, Chevy will wait until the last minute in case he has to compensate for injury. What do you think of that, Jim? Do you think
I don't think that. I think they're active. I think they're talking right now. I think they're weighing all their options. And as I said last night, look, we should talk this quickly too.
Yeah.
So Seth Jones, according to Elliot Friedman, gave his 2 teams he would go to. Seth Jones wanted out. We saw the comments after the game. We haven't gotten any better since the start of the year. Yeah. It's, I don't know what, we're just not improving at all, blah, blah, blah. Clearly he wanted out. He gave 2 teams. He gave Dallas, where he was from. His dad played basketball there, and Colorado, I think, as well. But he gave Dallas and Florida were the 2 teams he wanted to go to. Seth Jones doesn't consider Winnipeg. Now, hear me out. I don't know if Winnipeg wanted him, but he went to Florida at $7 million a season for a backup goaltender and a first-round pick. The Jets have first-round picks, and they have high-end goaltending prospects, not 28-year-old career backups. Milic, DeVincentis, and I don't know if the Jets would give that up or not, but this is my point. Not even considered Winnipeg. He wanted to go to Dallas or Florida. Dallas couldn't make it work even at $7 million per year, so it's Florida. And then Elliott says, so now the Chicago Blackhawks' hands are tied. Now you have to work out a trade with Florida. Now, some might say you don't have to trade him, but if you listen to him in that post game, you do. Mm-hmm. He's one of your leaders, and he's vocally telling you, and behind the doors, I'm only assuming, I don't have insight on this, I want out.
Yeah.
This is terrible. It's been a couple of years. I'm not happy. But say he doesn't. He just says that. Management goes, he's got to go. But if you're Seth Jones, you could, if you expanded your teams you would go to, come play with Josh Morrissey for the next 3 years of your contract on a first-place team with Connor Hellebuck in net. Mm-hmm. And it's not even an option. These are my only two options. Now, I get it. American-born player, not Canadian, whatever. But my point to what Kevin Cheveldayoff is going through right now, for everybody who goes, is exactly that. I think, and I just, my feeling, they're big game hunting right now, as well as depth hunting. Their biggest obstacle is the Seth Joneses of the world, who don't even consider a first-place team with Connor Hellebuck in net as an option. It's not even an option. And when you're trying to rely on big-name players with no trades and everything like that, I think that's going to be his biggest obstacle going into Friday when talking about top 6 players and top pairing defense.
I think it is every year. I think this is always the biggest challenge.
It stands out more to me this year, Cam, because I could see 2 years ago players going, wow, they're a playoff team, but I don't know if they're as good as this playoff team. Who in their right mind in the National Hockey League right now doesn't think the Winnipeg Jets are locked and loaded to make a Stanley Cup run? And you can bring up all the past 4 years playoff, for whatever you want to do. Last year, they finished second in the West, 4th overall. This year, they're first in the National Hockey League by a bullet. The next team to be in first place is like 40% less of the time than the Jets have been all year long. They have a Vezina winning and going to win another goaltender. They have elite top 6 and depth. If I'm a player that wants to win and I can control where I'm going, I at least give them an option. But he doesn't. And that's the biggest challenge I believe Kevin Cheveldayoff has. Look Seth Jones in the eyes and go, you don't want to play with Josh Morrissey for the next 3 years as a pairing and have Connor Hellebuck as your goalie and a chance to win the cup each and every year. Not even an option. Now, I get it. Florida's the defending Stanley Cup. You're a good team, but it's not even an option.
That's why it's so important to acquire guys with term so they can settle into Winnipeg, they can settle into the team, they can settle into the organization, and then you have a chance at keeping them. That's why bringing guys in with term on RFA deals that are up-and-comers in this league are important for the Winnipeg Jets to acquire, because for those exact same reasons. Come to Winnipeg, hey, this is actually a pretty good place. I like it. I like the teammates. I like the organization. I like the rink. I like the fans. I like that we matter in this community. This is a place where I'll set my roots down. I will re-sign here.
If I'm Brock Besser, if I'm Brock Nelson tonight playing against the Winnipeg Jets, I go, hey, Lou, if you're not going to give me $9 million a year for the next 7 years and they want a second-line center, I'll take a run with them for the next 3 months.
See,
but I doubt he does that.
That's you speaking, Jim.
That's me, yeah. Because I am the old school. I'm the old generation that I want to win. But that's not what we're dealing with. And I'm not knocking Seth Jones.
Well, he wants to win, but he wants to win where he wants to win.
I'm just saying the Winnipeg Jets aren't even an option to high-end hockey players.
That's where things are. I want to win. I don't think anybody in the National Hockey League, you have to have such a competitive edge to even get to this point. Everybody in the National Hockey League wants to win, but they also want to win where they want to win.
That's what I mean.
They want to win in the location and the environment that they want to do it, right? But you have to bring people in. That's why draft and develop is so important here. You got to bring people in. This is Winnipeg. You're not just coming in for a cup of coffee and getting out, playing a hockey game. You don't get to know what it's like here. And that's never going to be shed. As long as Winnipeg is in the National Hockey League, that is never going to be shed. Everyone is always going to think exactly the same.
And that's my point. They could have talked and worked out an option, and then Seth Jones, I've talked about it with my partner or whoever, and I appreciate the offer, but I don't want to. But it wasn't even considered. If I'm a hockey player, like, look at this top 6. They want a second-line center. Look at all the centers that could be available. How many of them are going to go, why wouldn't you go, I'll play in that top 6?
Yeah. I mean, this is the challenge.
Brock Besser wouldn't want to be surrounded by this top 6 with Hellebuck in the net with what he's been going through in Vancouver.
Well, don't you think that's what's happening?
I do. I think they're like,
You know,
no,
like it's
no,
like we can't even,
point.
you know, like.
I can't prove it, but I think more often than not, that over the next 48 hours, you're going to hear, sorry, I don't want to go to Winnipeg.
What more could this team provide to somebody who wants a chance to win a cup?
Remember when Stasny came here and it shocked us all because
that's
he
why
wasn't
it was so
available?
Shocking. That's why it was so shocking.
And Blake Wheeler made the call, and then when you talked about it, it's like, well, yeah, Blake called me and said, why don't you come here because this is kind of going to be good.
You know what? And Sean Monahan and Tyler Toffoli, I mean, they came to Winnipeg. They wanted a chance to win, and those were bigger names.
They had no choice. They had no trade, no movements. But I mean, they come and that's what I mean. Like Monahan put up numbers here. Toffoli, other than the playoffs, put up numbers here. But I'm just saying, like, it's the point that struck me about Friedman's tweet was, or on his podcast, sorry, not his tweet, not even an option. And I'm like, I get it 3 years ago. They're a playoff team, but I think there's 5 other teams that have a chance. I'd rather go there, whatever. Where would you rather go right now if you're a second-line center or a top 4 D-man?
Well, I could tell you my answer, but
where would you want to go?
Well, I'd rather come to Winnipeg.
Well, but there's other options. I'm not saying Winnipeg's the only one.
Yeah.
But there's maybe 3 or 4 that looked that looked as equally locked and loaded as the Jets.
Yeah. Greg texts the show. He says, Cam and Jim, I've said this all along. The Jets have to be more than just an organization. They have to be a great organization in order to get players here. You're seeing that with what you're talking about today with Seth Jones. Why wouldn't you want to play in front of Connor Hellebuck and possibly paired with Josh Morrissey? I don't get it, but that's the environment that Chevy has to work with. Greg, yeah, exactly. But what else that's why I'm asking.
That's my whole point.
What else could the Jets provide these players?
It's not even considered.
Nothing. There is nothing more Winnipeg could do to try and bring these guys in. We have a first-place hockey club. Just Jim laid it out. I don't need to repeat myself. There is nothing more the Winnipeg Jets could offer a guy who wants a chance to win a Stanley Cup.
If I'm a top pairing D-man, and I know I'm going to play with Josh Morrissey, because you're not playing Seth Jones on the 5-6. You're probably not even playing him 3-4.
Yeah.
You might to keep DeMello and spread it out, but you know what I'm saying. Like, hey, if you consider it, then we'll put you with Morrissey. You'll be a dynamic duo for the next 3 years because you got 3 years left. We'd love to pay $7 million per, and we have Connor Hellebuck, and we're the highest scoring team in the league, and we have the number 1 power play, which you will get power play time here, and it's not even an option. Dallas or Florida?
John in Sask, Bomber fan in brackets, says we're getting Parenko from St. Louis. Perfect fit.
He might, but he's no Seth Jones.
Yeah.
Forgive me, Parenko, but I don't know about that either. But I'm just saying, like, that's why I think they are making a move, because for every player that won't even consider it, there's some really good players like Parenko and Ristolainen. And I mean, I would think that, like Jamie Alexiak, if you look at him right now and as good as he is and go, do you want to come to Winnipeg? He'll be like, hell yes, I do, because I have a chance to win a cup.
Yeah, and we still haven't seen some of the bigger names come off the board here. William texts the show. This was the original text from William, so thanks for sparking this conversation. Deadly silent from the Jets office regarding trade deadline. How about Chevy's blockbuster, like he announces the Jonathan Taves is signed with the Jets? Oh, baby. Yeah, if the Jets are interested in that.
I have a little insight on that.
Okay, go ahead.
So I have a buddy who knows Jonathan and doesn't know this for a fact, but he said and again, this is a buddy, but it's looking like, because we were debating whether it'd be this year or next. It looks like it's next year. Like he wants to play again, but he wants to use the off season, and like it won't be. He doesn't feel that it'll be like Friday he signed a deal.
Yeah.
He hasn't played hockey in so long that he's not going to come in for a playoff run. I think he's going to come into a training camp and play again, wherever that may be.
That certainly is what it sounded like to me. I totally think that. And the Winnipeg Jets are interested. Kevin Cheveldayoff, he doesn't go out on limbs like that, and he says that they are interested. Let's take a break. Let's come back. On the other side, hey, we'll give away that VIP car wash from our VIP
Wash Method
friends over at Wash Method, located at 690 St. Anne's Road. We'll give that away, and more trade deadline talk after this.
All of that and Wash Method, and you don't want to consider it?
At noon with Cameron Poitras and Jim Toth on 680 CJOB.
Well, congratulations to Andrew. He is our winner. of the car wash at 690 St. Anne's Road from our good friends at Wash Method.
Wash Method.
Because he said he's predicting a flurry of moves by the Jets, who will no longer need to make room out for the newbies. So go Jets. That one from Andrew. So thank you for that text. And you found yourself a car wash from the best in the business at Wash Method. Here's another text message too. This one's from Matt. I think part of the problem is that Chevy won't overpay many guys like a lot of other places do. So that kind of people will not be willing to say, hey, I'll come in there, I'll test the waters out for 2-3 months or whatever. Hopefully 3 months, right? Knock on wood.
Maybe, because I've always found his contracts very fair. Like, he doesn't overpay and he doesn't underpay. It's just, this is what your market value is.
I don't want to go to Winnipeg. They don't overpay their guys, or they don't. They're not on the upper echelons of guys that they don't dish out.
And guys don't think they're overpaid, right? Like, if you're a center that's worth $8 million a year and you want 9.5, they believe they're worth 9.5. But Chevy doesn't do that. Chevy's like, this is what you're worth. This is your value. Mm-hmm. And I'm not going to offer you 7 because you are worth 8, but I'm not giving you 9.5 either. And I don't know, but like, a player doesn't sit here and go, I'm worth 7. I can get 9 anywhere else, but Chevy won't do that. I think they believe they're worth 9, right?
Yeah, and that's just the way it goes sometimes. I mean, this is an ongoing thing.
Although
too,
it would be great to get the odd player who goes, I thought I was going to get 5 and I got 8. This is outstanding.
I love it.
Maybe the Jets. Seth Jones is one of those players, right? Like, a week ago, he's kind of not wishing he made 9.5 because they couldn't move him.
Call the Jets at noon. Hockey hotline open 24/7, 204-780-6800. We'd love to hear from you. Jim told to take you all the way till 2 o'clock. That's it for me. Be back same time tomorrow. Pre-game at 4. Puck drop 6:30. Jets, Islanders. See ya.